Okay, guys, so I see everybody's in Zoom over on the left. We've all said hi. We're all in here. So if at any time you have any questions, you can use your mic to ask them, of course. But if you don't feel like talking or if you're having mic issues, you can always type in that Zoom group chat message, okay? All right, so we should have gotten into Nearpod as well, and I see the three of you are all in there. I see Bailey and Kurt and Sue are all in Nearpod right now. So you should be able to see today's objectives. So today, by the end, you should be able to compare and contrast solar and lunar eclipses. So the two main types of eclipses that we are going to talk about are solar and lunar. And they both have to do with the sun, the moon, and the earth. So they each move in different directions, and that's going to be what causes one kind of eclipse or the other. So before we get into our lesson, I want to know what you think. What do you think is the difference between a lunar and a solar eclipse? So think about those words lunar and solar and what you know they mean. What do you think that's going to have to do with what the difference is between a lunar and a solar eclipse? So remember, when you're done typing in that box, click on that blue submit button. Okay, so Kurt said lunar, Earth blocks out the moon, and in solar, the moon blocks the sun. Okay. Sue says solar blocks the sun and lunar blocks the moon. Okay, and Bailey said the solar eclipse is when the moon covers the sun, and the lunar eclipse is when the sun covers the moon. Okay, well, let's get into it, guys. So this is a diagram showing you the different parts of a lunar eclipse. So in that top left-hand corner, you can see the sun. In the middle, we have the Earth, and on the right, in that bottom corner, we have the moon. So this arrow going around the Earth shows the orbit that the moon goes through. And you can see that the Earth has two different shadows. So when the moon is going through that first shadow, that's called the penumbra, and it's the lighter part of the shadow. So when it's in there, it's hard to see the moon. It gets really dim. And when it gets into that umbra, it actually turns a deep, dark red color. So that's the darkest part of Earth's shadow. And the reason it turns that red color is because as light goes through the atmosphere of Earth, it bends, and that bending causes the sunlight to change color. So when that light bends and changes color, it actually ends up red, and that red light shines on the moon, which makes our moon look very red. So that color only happens at the total eclipse position, and that only happens when we're in the umbra. In the penumbra, it's going to look just like a normal moon, but it's going to be a little dimmer. So some things to remember about the lunar eclipse. It occurs only during the full moon, and when the moon moves through the shadow of the Earth. It takes 1 hour for the moon to become totally eclipsed or totally red. And remember the difference between those two parts of the shadow. The umbra is the part that's the total shadow when the moon is red, and the penumbra means the moon is dimmed but not extinguished. The other type of eclipse is a solar eclipse. So on the left, you can see the sun, but in the middle this time is the moon. So the moon is actually in between the sun and the Earth. When this happens, the moon casts a shadow because the sun is on this side, so that moon has a shadow on the Earth. So there are two different parts to the moon's shadow, just like there's two different parts to the Earth's shadow during a lunar eclipse. And they're still called the umbra and the penumbra. So the umbra is the part that's the darkest shadow. And when you are at that tiny little spot, if you're in that umbra spot that's the darkest shadow, it would be a total solar eclipse. If you're in that penumbra part, it's only going to be a partial solar eclipse. So in the total eclipse, if this happens during the daytime, everything outside would turn totally dark. If you're in the penumbra part and this happens during the daytime, you would be able to see half the sun, but the sun would kind of look like a crescent shape, sort of like the moon does sometimes. So some things to remember about solar eclipses. They happen when the moon is in between the Earth and the sun. The moon is small and pretty close to Earth, so it only casts a small shadow. It doesn't cast a shadow on the entire Earth, only little parts. And the darkness only lasts a few minutes because the moon keeps on orbiting and it keeps spinning around the Earth. And if you're in that umbra, that darkest part, you'll have a total solar eclipse. And if you're in the penumbra, you'll have a partial solar eclipse. So this is our collaborate board. So I'd like you guys to try and find an image of what that lunar or solar eclipse looks like. If you were here on Earth, what is it that you're going to see? So you can use that little blue box in the right-hand corner of your screen at the bottom. It has a little white square on it. It looks like 2 mountains and a dot. When you click on that, you're going to get a box that says upload your images, and you can use that little search bar to find an image on Google Images. So type in lunar eclipse or type in solar eclipse. You can pick which one. After you type it in, hit enter. Try and find a picture of one that you like. And in that share thoughts or images, tell us which one we are seeing. So it looks like Sue showed us a diagram of a solar eclipse. Bailey found one of a solar eclipse. Bailey has a picture of what a solar eclipse looks like from Earth. Kurt also is showing us a picture of what a solar eclipse looks like from Earth. Sue, did you mean for the lunar label to go with that first diagram?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense. Looks like Bailey shared one of a lunar eclipse with that bright red. I'm sharing one with you guys just so you can see a picture of what each one looks like. So on that left side is that lunar eclipse with that bright red moon, and on the right is that solar eclipse. So that white ring that shows up around the moon is called the corona, and it's an outer layer of the sun. It's kind of like the sun's atmosphere, just like Earth has an atmosphere on the outside layer, and we can actually only see that during a solar eclipse. So during a solar eclipse is the only time scientists actually get to study that outer layer of the sun. All right, guys, good pictures. Okay, so now that we've gone through our lesson and you guys have seen some pictures, tell me, what is the main difference between a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse? So go ahead and type in your answers. Hit submit when you're done.